So Elegoo have dropped a bit of a clanger with their Centauri Carbon with a promise that has been kind of retracted or not delivered to date, and they've given some more updates and information on it. So I will go through some of those things, what you can do about it, what options are available, and just a couple of my thoughts on it as well. Now, I decided to put this video together because a few of you have messaged me about this and asking me about it, because I mentioned that I've been quite interested in picking up the Centauri Carbon, or the Centauri Carbon 2, obviously once it's made available to purchase outside of China. And I've got a few thoughts on this. So for anyone who's not sure what's been going on, basically Elegoo delivered the Centauri Carbon, which is like their first core XY 3D printer. And it came in at an absolute super budget value proposition, but it also competed with a lot of higher priced printers. It's a really, really intriguing proposition. And as part of their announcement, they said that it was also going to be capable of using multi-material system printing. So basically, they were going to make an additional extra that you'd be able to purchase at a later date. I believe they said within this year, so it was going to happen within 2025 by the end of this year. So basically, you'd be able to buy their version of like an AMS system like Bamboo Lab have, or a MMS, whatever people are going to call it, which allow you to change the colors of your filament, swap between them whilst you're printing, and get multicolor printing, multi-material printing. Now, obviously, this didn't come, and a lot of people were a bit concerned of it. The first batch of these machines started arriving. They didn't have like this connection port that was on the side of it. And then the second batch came out, and then a lot of people showing pictures, and they had different ports on the external of the machine. So people started to get a bit worried that maybe the machine that they'd bought, if they were like an early adopter, wasn't going to support the AMS system once it came out. There was a whole load of like different people rambling about it. And then like 6 months down the line, they've just announced the Carbon Centauri 2, which also supports their version of multi-material printing, which basically everything straps onto the side of it. Everything goes up through the top. It's a really odd and convoluted system, but it helps to keep the budget down from what I can tell. And when they announced this, everybody started to get worried, because obviously their approach to this looked like it was very much tied to that new hardware system. And also they started removing things from their website that had any mention of the multi-material system getting backdated to the Centauri Carbon. There's a lot of silence from Elegoo, but they have just come out and they've basically addressed this issue. Now, the options that they're given, so there are 3 options to you. Basically, they've said that they are struggling to get this up to a standard that they would want for customers. So basically, it's delayed indefinitely. We don't know when we're going to see it, if we're going to see it. They haven't said it's cancelled, so it is worth noting that. They are still apparently going to deliver on this promise, but they've just not been able to get it to a standard that they want to. There are 3 options. The first option is you can get a $50 coupon, which is valid for 3 months for filament orders on Elegoo official store over $100. Random. Option B is a 365-day warranty extension for your Centauri Carbon, excluding consumable parts. And option C is an $80 USD coupon applicable to your purchase of Centauri Carbon 2 combo to be released in Q1 of 2026. Now, personally, I think they don't go far enough in addressing this. So first off, I'll address my thoughts on it, and then we'll come over to community responses, because they've been really interesting. And I think this whole thing, I'm more surprised by the community responses than I am of Elegoo doing this, because anyone who's followed Elegoo for a while will know that Elegoo have a really bad habit, and I suppose they need to, because they're quite, I guess, a young company. They're trying to be up and coming at all this, but it's really frustrating. They will always release a product, and then approximately 6 months later, they always follow up with the pro version or the second iteration of this, which addresses a lot of the issues that came out with the initial product, but they never go back and fix those issues with the initial products. I've been victim of this a few times where, like my Mars 3, for example, then the Mars 3 Pro came out, addressed all the issues the Mars 3 had, but they never fixed the Mars 3, which very frustrating. This is quite different though, because they've made a promise that they're going to deliver on, and then they're not quite doing that. Now, in my opinion, like option A is just a bit crap, because A, it's only valid for 3 months, and it has a minimum spend, and I feel like this should be, here's a $50 coupon to spend at an Elegoo store, regardless of purchase. But this is only for their filament, and you must spend $100 or more. I think that's just cheaping out, and it's really frustrating. A 365-day warranty extension for Centauri Carbon. Again, it excludes a lot of the consumable parts. And from using a 3D printer, it's those consumable parts that are going to break over time. Everything else tends to just work. And also, good luck chasing down a warranty. Sometimes it can be quite difficult with certain companies. And then option C, an $80 USD coupon to upgrade to a machine that is going to support the thing that you're meant to be getting anyway. Is a bit of a kick in the teeth. And again, I don't think it goes far enough. Personally, I feel as though they should be doing a lot more for this, because ultimately they've made a promise. They said that this feature would be available, and they're now not able to deliver on that, or they're not in the foreseeable future. In my opinion, what they should be doing is offering a full refund. Now, I know they don't necessarily have to. It's hard to get done in different places, and different countries have different laws and everything else. But that's what I would kind of expect as a consumer. At least, if they were going to go down this option of trying to push people towards Centauri Carbon 2, offer them a full exchange of the machine, so you can exchange it for the cash value you paid for, and then you will be able to use that as a credit towards Centauri Carbon 2. If they want to lock people into the new version of it, at least offer them a trade-up program or something along those lines. In my opinion, they don't do enough to address it here, which is really frustrating. Now, I am not naive to the fact that companies do this. And Elegoo are not the only ones to do this as well. So when I call these out, I have to call out lots of companies. Apple, for example, one of the biggest companies in the world, very recently did this with their artificial intelligence. Basically made a whole bunch of promises, they never delivered on them. You know, the iPhone 16 was built for Apple Intelligence. They showed off all of these things of using your artificial intelligence as a little assistant that would be able to do things and call up loads of things about when I met this person, who are they, what do we talk about? They never delivered on those, and not much has really happened. We've seen this time and time again with companies, and it's just really, really frustrating to see it. The difference is, however, with something like Apple and Elegoo is Apple can kind of afford to do that because people will just buy their products regardless. Elegoo, there's a lot of competition out there. And a lot of that competition is really, really hotting up at the moment. And I feel as though by doing this and not handling it well, and I still don't feel they've gone far enough with this, they risk burning their current audience, especially those who've bought the Centauri Carbon and it's their first Elegoo product. A lot of them aren't going to come back to Elegoo. They're going to go to Bamboo Lab or any of the other 3D printing companies that are really, really doing a good job at the moment. So they really risk burning that base unless they respond to this better than what they're currently doing. And the final thing to note as well is that this really emphasizes never, ever, ever buy a product based on something that is promised, that is something that is coming in the future. Buy the product as it is today with what it currently delivers. And that's a really frustrating thing. We as consumers should be able to buy from Elegoo, for example, or from Apple, based on the fact that they're saying this product will feature this in the future, or you'll be able to buy this upgrade that will go alongside it. We should be able to buy that. We should be able to trust them. There should be a lot more protections in place to allow us to buy on that promise. However, we all know in the grand scheme of things that money talks, and that doesn't always happen. So that leaves us as consumers in the place of never ever buy a product based on what they are telling us it will do in the future. If it doesn't do it right now, when it delivers and you've got it in your hands, it might never do that. And that's really frustrating, but unfortunately it's a really horrible lesson for a lot of us to learn. And I've learned it before, and a lot of people out there now from Elegoo are also learning that, and it's just so frustrating. Anyway, moving on to the community responses, and I think these are really interesting. It seems to be a massive split of a lot of people basically saying, hey, you know what, I don't care. I bought the machine that I wanted. It does what it said on the tin, and I don't care about multi-material printing. Don't care about multicolor. I bought it. I got a great value proposition. I got an awesome machine that delivers, and you know what? It does those things. It does what it says it's going to do. Delivers fantastic print results by all accounts. From everything I've seen online, it's a great printer. It's a reliable printer. It is fast. And it is such a good value proposition. So there's a lot of people out there who are really, really happy with their printer. And they never had a plan on using that multi-material. And that's great. For all those people, that is absolutely fantastic. I am very happy for you. And hopefully a lot of people out there are really happy with their machines. So they should be. But then there's obviously the other camp who wanted that multi-material printing, who bought the Centauri Carbon rather than something like Bamboo Lab A1 with the AMS combo, because there was a promise there of being able to buy it. And they could buy a really nice value proposition that was all enclosed, Core XY printer, and just offered a lot of those bells and whistles that maybe a different value proposition doesn't offer. And they're really frustrated and annoyed, and they absolutely have a right to be as well. And I do find it interesting seeing those two camps have kind of been drawn up in a lot of the forums, on subreddits and stuff like that, where people are like, you know what, I don't care. You shouldn't have bought this based on a promise. Kind of, but they also have a right to buy something on a promise. If a company tells you they're going to deliver on something, they should damn well deliver on that or offer far better compensation than Elegoo are. But I also understand the standpoint. So yeah, it's really interesting seeing that sort of standpoint at the moment. I think both sides have something to say there, and there is some validity in both sides of those. But I do find myself siding on the perspective of those who bought it and are very, very frustrated because they have a right to be frustrated. They were offered something, they were told something would be coming. It is now not coming. It's a bit of a bait and switch thing of, hey, buy this value proposition. It offers more than some of our competitors at this price, and we're also going to deliver on this extra bit that our competitors do. And then suddenly go, oh, we're not actually going to give you that bit anymore, or at least in the near future. Frustrating. Either way you look at it, it's really frustrating. I think there needs to be a little bit more empathy from both sides of that. Some people can still really enjoy that, because there's a lot of people out there who are very angry at the moment, who are like, well, everybody should be returning this. Everybody should be doing a chargeback. Everybody should be kicking up a stink. But realistically, not everybody's going to be in that mindset. Some people are really happy with the machine. It still prints as well as it did yesterday, today, and they're very happy with it, and that's fine. But those ones that are very happy with it also need to understand that actually some people bought this based on the promise. Should they have? Should they not have? I don't know. That's, frustrating in the world we live in. But they have a right to also be really upset with this whole thing. I hate it when companies do stuff like this. Hats off to them in a way, because at least they acknowledged it. They finally acknowledged the elephant in the room and said, you know what? Everyone's been talking about this. Let's finally talk about it. So at least they've done that rather than just hiding and never saying anything, because some companies will just never address it. So you know what, Elegoo, well done for at least doing that. They also offered options for customers. In my opinion, they don't go far enough, but that's my opinion. Some people out there will think this is a great option, and that is absolutely fine. So again, hats off to them for at least offering options. But yeah, when 3D printing is getting into the consumer space as much as it is, I hate seeing when 3D printing companies do something to lose the trust of the consumer base. Because the worst case that happens now is some of these people who've been burned by Elegoo sell their printer and leave the 3D printing world and hobby because they're just angry with it and they don't come back. And that is not what we want to see in this space. So companies do better, Elegoo do better. And if you've been burned by this, I'm sorry for you. It's a crap position to be in. And I guess that's it from my community question. A sad one. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you've got to the end of this, it's a bit of a rambly, ranty video. Hope you're safe. Enjoy your printing. Let's end on a high. What are you printing at the moment? What fun projects? I've just printed this massive dragon head and it's absolutely awesome. I'm going to be sticking all this together and painting it soon. Let me know something fun in the comments to end this on. What are you printing, or what's your most fun bit of the hobby at the moment? Because that just helps to cheer us all up and remember actually we're all here to have a little bit of fun and to do crazy creative stuff like this. Anyway, ta-ra, stay safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.